home. Always good to win at home. Proud of our team. We had it's kind of an interesting two halves. Had a tough start offensively, and then kind of got things going a little bit in the second half. Defensively played well, really for three quarters, and then gave up the 2-minute drives at the end, and hung on with a onside kick recovery and a stop on defense. So like a lot of these games, they're close, they're tight, similar to some of the games that Stanford's played. Against Florida State, came down in the last play. BC was tight. They scored at the end of the game to beat San Jose. So there's a lot of games like that in this conference, and that's what we're ready for. And fortunately, we made enough plays to come out on top today, and so it's a good feeling. Just a lot of things we can still improve on, keep working on, and that's what we'll do. Going forward and get ready for Wake.
We'll get started on the right here front row now.
Hey Bill, we asked you a lot about Melcart recently, but Tyler Thompson has 7 sacks now in the last 4 games, and before that he didn't have a career sack. Just where have you seen the emergence of Tyler come from?
Yeah, he's worked really hard, going all the way back to the spring. I mean, he's one of the players that was a carryover from the previous team and has stayed with us, all the way through, which, again, it's like well less than half the team, so I just point that out. But yeah, he's really worked hard on his pass rush. He's gotten a lot stronger. I mean, he was, I think, about maybe 15 to 20 pounds lighter than he is now. And that's all really good weight. He's explosive, he's strong, and his fundamentals and techniques rushing the passer have been something that he's refined and worked on, and working in coordination with the defensive linemen for pass rush games and stuff like that. So he's our guy blocking practice. I could just tell you, like, this, some of the things you see in the games are similar to what we see in practice. He's good edge speed, he has power, he's long, he's pretty athletic.
On the far right, coach, front row.
Yes.
Bill, with you guys at 4-5, 3 games left, do you even allow yourself to sort of think about what you guys need to do to get bowl eligibility at this point?
Right now, we're going to think about how we can correct our mistakes from the Stanford game, how to get better, and talk about the things we did well, the things we didn't do well, and then we'll go on to Wake Forest, and we'll just let everything else take care of itself.
Bill, what has been the difference with the pass rush in the last few weeks? Is it something the way that maybe Tyler and Melcart are lining up, or is there some other things you guys are doing that are kind of opening up those lanes to it a little bit more?
Well, I mean, again, the score has a lot to do with it. It's hard to rush a passer against Clemson when you're, beyond by 4 touchdowns, things like that. We're behind against Central Florida, so it's just hard to rush in those situations because they control the game. So the score has a lot to do with it. Long yardage, obviously helps too. So, it's good team defense, good coverage, better rush. Just all works together.
So a lot of this was would have been there previously if the games had gone?
No, look, I've said 1,000 times that we've improved significantly over the course of the season, individually and collectively. Our team defense, our team offense, our kickoff coverage, I mean, everything. It's not just one guy or one thing. It's a collective effort.
Front row on the left.
Yeah, Bill, you mentioned obviously playing in close games the last several weeks. This is another one where the defense kind of, I guess, allowed the offense to kind of hang around, if that makes sense, getting stops and allowing you guys like you did today to kind of get some touchdowns late and, take the lead. How much of a lift do you think that's kind of providing you from a defensive standpoint to, keep you guys in these games and then, relying on the offense to really make a couple plays to try to
I mean, look, I think everybody that goes out on the field is going out there to do the best they can. The defense is going out there to stop them. The offense is going out there to move the ball and score points. And sometimes good things happen, but that's not all the time. So I don't think it's anything other than that, really. We had good field position defensively from our kicking game, and unfortunately, we weren't able to take advantage of the turnover in the first quarter. Or start whatever it was, first quarter and second quarter, whatever it was. We weren't able to take advantage of that field position, and neither were they. On the fumble, ended up missing a field goal and then scoring before the half. But we knew Stanford's a good 2-minute team. They showed that in the Florida State game. They showed it in the BC game. They showed it certainly in the San Jose game where they came from behind, to win. They showed it in the SMU game at the half. So we knew that was a big part of their offensive production, and they did a good job with it, better than we did until the very end.
Front row, far left.
Hey, Coach, you guys had 11 penalties today. Was it more of like a discipline thing, or was it just maybe just a frustration of the game itself?
Yeah, some of those penalties are just they're bad penalties, false starts. We had 2 or 3 of those lined up in the neutral zone once. I don't know, that's probably a third of the penalties right there on stuff like that. And then, the holding penalties and the defensive pass interference. We knew they would call those tight. They called them pretty tight on both teams. They had a couple of DPIs and an OPI, I think. We had a couple too. So, we just got to do a better job of not contacting the receiver while the ball's in the air. But it was, those came up on both sides of the ball. But yeah, we had too many penalties, no doubt about it. We stopped ourselves too many times with, or created long yardage situations for ourselves. It wasn't them. It was, us on false starts and as I said, lined up in the neutral zone on defense.
Right next to him, Coach.
Bill, wouldn't you call Gio Lopez a fighter in a way that he's been able to kind of block out a lot of noise and things that have surrounded him and still come out even the slow first half and come out and put together a performance in the second half to kind of led you on to victory? How have you seen that characteristic out of him, and what have you seen him do, even in a slow start, be able to do things in the second half?
Yeah, I think Gio's a really competitive kid. He's a tough kid. You see him running the ball. He runs like a running back. He's not afraid to take a hit and drop his shoulder and gain a couple extra tough yards. I mean, he's very, very tough, competitive guy. And look, not every play is a great play. Every play is not an 80-yard touchdown. I think that's part of being a quarterback, is coming back from a 3 and out or a play that doesn't go the way you want it to go, and just block it out and move on to the next play. And that's what we all need to do, not just quarterback, but all of us. If things don't go well, then move on to the next play, figure out what went wrong when we come to the sideline or when we watch the film, and try to execute it better the next time.
Second row, right in the center.
Bill, sort of along those lines, what would you make of, I understand each game is its own entity, but what would you make of the way you started at Syracuse and then the way you were able to sort of turn around in the second half offensively, and then today it was a slow start. I think it was only 47 total yards for you in the first half, but right out
Thanks for reminding me of that number. I appreciate it. Yeah, I think that is right. Yes.
But right out of the gate, you get your best drive of the game to start the second half. Like, what have you made of some of these slow starts and the way you've been able to regroup or adjust or whatever you've been able to do at the half? We try to do that all the time. The TCU game was a fast start game for us. The Charlotte game was a fast start game for us. But we didn't necessarily sustain it. So I don't know that there's a correlation. Whether it was a pregame meal we ate or whether it was, something superstitious that counted for that. I don't really think that's what it was. We just have to, always try to play well early and try to play from ahead and, try to get off to a good start. We haven't done that lately, and we need to find a way to do that offensively. We definitely need to find that. So we'll keep working on it.
Third row, right in the center, Coach.
Yeah, Bill. Brian Murphy. When you have you ever thought, including tonight, about taking Gio out, putting Max in maybe for a series to give him a chance to regroup, or putting Max in permanently? And since you haven't done that, what is it about Gio that makes you think he's got this? Even if he isn't playing well, I trust him that he's going to get it turned around.
Yeah, I just think he gives his best chance to win. That's why he's in there.
Second row on the far right, Coach.
Hey, Coach, I know the game just ended, but with Wake Forest up next week, do you have any thoughts that come to your mind about them and what they give out their own food?
Yeah, I've done a little preview work on them, as we usually do prior to the game. Obviously, not in depth, but they're pretty good. I think that they are very well coached on defense. They have a good defensive scheme. Same thing in the kicking game. They're aggressive on special teams, and offensively, they've been productive there too. Athletic quarterback and a lot of different things that we need to stop. So we know this is going to be a big challenge, especially going on the road, to play at Wake. But I think they're a good football team. I think they're very well coached and disciplined, and we'll probably need to play our best game.
Does the win over Syracuse on the road give you any confidence for the team going back on the road to the quarters?
Yeah, I think we've been confident all year. I don't think lack of confidence is a problem. We need to play better, do some things better, but I don't think it's a lack of confidence. I don't think we haven't been confident in any game. Some games we perform better than others, but I don't think we lack confidence.
Far left coach here. Standing.
Bill, you guys score on the 2 explosives today. I've seen an increase in those as far as the scoring plays. What do you attribute that to, and how have you seen your guys take advantage of those in recent weeks?
Yeah, I think our guys have done a good job on some of the open field running opportunities they've had. Juju last week on the screen, with the stiff arm going down the sideline, and Jordan on catching the ball, cutting back, hit the wheel route to pull it down the sideline. That was really just a play. It wasn't a catch and run play, but we had some catch and run plays. Kobe had the hitch pattern last week, ran it down to the 1 yard line. So just emphasizing running with the ball when it's in our hands on short routes or under routes, slants, things like that, and gaining those yards after the catch with good running skills. Those guys have done a good job of that, and our backs have done a good job when they've had a chance. We just couldn't get them started today.
Second row, far left, Shelby.
Coach, a lot of players on both sides of the ball said that over the past few weeks they've felt just a lot more trust in the guy to the left and the right. I'm curious just to what extent you've seen that as a coach. You can just speak to maybe any examples how it's played out on offense.
Yeah, no, I'm at 100%. I mean, first of all, I don't think everybody necessarily knew the name of the person to the left or right of them several weeks ago. So we've gotten to spend more time with each other, a lot of new faces, and trying to find some combinations. We've had to move some people around, and so sure, trusting the person that's next to you and trusting the play. Sometimes the guy in front of you on defense is another. That's a high level of trust too. The person that plays in front of you in the on the when you line up for a play, if they do what they're supposed to do, then you can do what you're supposed to do, and if you're not sure, then you kind of wait to see where they are before you see where you go, things like that. So yeah, I think that has really helped us to be able to be more cohesive, to practice better, to work together on the field, at a higher level. Both sides of the ball, they're very competitive in practice. We've gotten better consistently, and so that's we're going to try to keep doing. But that unity in the group, whether it's on the punt team or the kickoff team or the our dime defense or whatever it is, it all certainly has helped. I'm not saying we're there yet by any stretch, but it's definitely gotten better, and it helps. And there's a lot of times where guys can just look over and they so yeah, I think that's what you're going to do, and what I mean. We weren't anywhere close to that several weeks ago.
Last one here from standing far left.
And Bill, so going off of what Jeremiah was saying earlier, next week, Wake Forest, we've got 2 good defensive teams going at it, but your guys' offense, particularly the second half, has really seemed to start playing closer to its full potential, playing a lot better in recent weeks. What are going to be those things you continue to do, you want to see your players continue to do to beat Wake Forest defensively, and what are going to be those offensive, difference maker plays that you guys need to make to overcome their tough defense and win your 3rd straight game?
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to have to kind of pass on that one. I just haven't studied them enough to know some of the specifics that you're asking, and those are great questions, and we need to get the answers to those. I just don't have them right now. But again, I think that they're very well coached. I think they're very sound in what they do. They make you beat them. They make you go out and execute well to beat them. They don't make a lot of mistakes and just give up a lot of easy plays because they're not sound at what they're doing. So as I said, I think they're very well coached. They have probably the best pass rush that we're going to see this year, or certainly one of the best. They're very explosive on the defensive line, so I know that's going to be a problem. I have to deal with that. But as far as how it's all going to come together and what we feel like will give us the best chance to be competitive against them, we'll have to figure that out here over the next few days.
Thanks.
We got time for a couple more if you want. I know I kept you hanging here, so I can go a little longer if you want. Brandon?
Go ahead, Pat.
Bill, just you talked about the improvement, and obviously defensively, we've really seen that. Offensively, what do you think is holding back maybe offense from having that same level of improvement, or why maybe they haven't had the same level of improvement that the defense has?
Well, and again, it goes in spurts. Like, we had it in the second half offensively in the last 2 games. Defensively, we didn't have it too much in the fourth quarter today. They drove the ball down the field, 2 times. So I would say it's just an inconsistency that we just don't, in every area of the game, we're just not as consistent as we need to be. We do enough good things. We've done enough good things to, be competitive in the last 4 games, win 2 of them, lose 2 of them with a turnover inside the 1-yard line. But we're competitive. We just, to play better, we just need to be more consistent across the board. And that part of that's coaching, part of it's playing, part of it's, individual play, part of it's, our play as a unit. So everything's important. It all matters, and we're just trying to, do everything better. I wouldn't say it's just like one thing that stands out. If there was one switch we could flip, I would do that. But I think that it's more of a consistency that we need.
On the left of the center, Tim.
Bill, everyone talks a lot about how the players had to get to know each other and trust each other, and I'm wondering, from your standpoint, how the beginning of the season, how you had to adjust to maybe the different level that you're coaching now compared to what you used to coach, and how that has led to the improvement that the team has had as well.
Yeah, I don't think it's as much about the level. I think it's, again, in retrospect, I think I could have done a better job in looking at some of our players and putting them in a better position to be successful. I think we have, tried to do that more as we've gone forward, and I think it's benefited some of them. Some of those, if we could have identified it a little bit sooner, that would have been helpful, but, we didn't, and so it's nobody's fault. It's just kind of the way it was. But as we played more games and got more opportunities to, see our guys work together, find the right combinations, and help them improve and put them in positions that are maybe a little better for their skill set, that's helped some of their production as well. So, again, going back to the early part of the season, there's a number of moving parts there. But, again, in retrospect, I think, I and we as a staff could have done a better job. If we knew then what we know now, there's some things we would have done differently, but some of those we had to experience, and, things we thought we could do, we didn't do very well. Other things that we maybe weren't sure we could do, we were actually able to do okay. So, that's been part of our learning curve. Thanks.
Brian.
Bill, if you'll indulge me a frivolous one, the interlocking UNC is not a logo that's shown a lot around here, but I know it goes back to when your dad coached here.
I think so. It's like a Lawrence Taylor. It's a Lawrence Taylor helmet, yeah.
And did you have to request that, special, or were those around for you?
No, I think we had them. I think we had that logo put on some of our gear.
When you talked about some of the adjustments you made, DeMonju, big game last week, I think he only gets 3 carries today. How much of that is you guys game planning game by game, and how much of it is kind of what you answered Tim about knowing things that you can do better, week to week?
Yeah, some of our substitutions are predicated on certain things, personnel groups, and other factors, without getting into a long dissertation on it. And so sometimes if things are going well, that takes a person out of a rotation or adds another person into a more playing time, more snaps. Not necessarily that one person's done anything wrong or right, but just that grouping is more productive, and that might lead to more opportunities for the people that are in that grouping, if that makes any sense.
Right in the front end.
Bill, we talked to Jordan Shipp a little while ago, and he spoke about how their respect for Gio has kind of accrued over time as they've seen him handle some of the criticism, some of the struggles. For you, what kind of conversations have you had with him about dealing with some of that and some of the outside noise, which is probably impossible for the guys to totally block out? And how has your respect for him in that sense grown over time as well?
I think he's handled it pretty well. We've talked about it a little bit, but not extensively. Really, I've just tried to coach him to help him, do things that I think will help him execute better as a quarterback, or see the game, or see something that the defense is doing to try to help his execution. My focus has really been more on the coaching and the performance. I I think he's a confident kid. He's a tough kid. And look, anybody that's played quarterback has, had some good plays and some bad plays. And I think he's done a good job of bouncing back from them. He's had a couple in practice, and he's had some really good plays in practice. But, he's good at moving on to the next play. And that's really what we all need to do, whether it's quarterback or any other position, is, have a short memory. Learn from it, but have a short memory and move on. Don't let it affect your confidence and your execution on the next play.
Front left.
Bill, you mentioned Wake Forest pass rush being so good, but you guys have better than, you said it was one of the team's best you'll face, but you face your offensive line faces then.
Yes.
Bill, with the amount of injuries on the offensive line lately, how have you seen that group kind of come together, and even how's the defensive line prepared them for games like this?
Yeah, but we have trouble blocking our defensive line. So, we see it every day. And we have multiple players, that can rush. Guys like Ty and Xavier, and some of the games and stunts that we run up there are not that easy to pick up. So, that's good work for our offensive line. So yeah, we do have some trouble with them. But it's good. Again, the competition makes us better, and so we embrace it and try to learn from it.
Shelby.
Bill's seen a lot of, playmakers emerge, on June, Madrid, Tucker, these guys that were just at the bottom of the depth chart. They've spoken, a lot of players feel really highly about just kind of the opportunity for guys like them to rise up with just setting that football in basic periods. You kind of go over Bill with a lot of those younger guys. I'm curious just what maybe went into kind of designing that. It seems like a lot of intentionality put into developing the younger players. If you could just kind of talk us through that process.
It's something we've always done. It's going all the way back to Cleveland. When Michael and I were there, we had the post-practice periods to see how the players improve. When your players who don't get a lot of playing time just run the other team's plays, it's hard for you to evaluate how they could actually run your plays, right? And so we created those periods and those opportunities for them to show how they were progressing doing our stuff, not just running, Virginia's plays and Syracuse's plays and Cal's plays and so forth, right? And so, that's been a good measuring stick, I think, for me, to see how our guys are progressing in what we do. And some of them have progressed to the point where they've earned playing time, both in the kicking game and on offensive defense. You've mentioned some of them, and there are some other ones as well. Jordan Hall being one of them, that through their performance in practice and against our better players. So if you're a scout team player running the other team's plays against our first defense or our first offense, and you can continue to show up and be productive in those situations, that's a pretty good indication that you're probably ready to compete against that level of player. So it's a combination of both of those, but you do want to see, or I do want to see, our players running our plays to make sure that they can do what we need them to do, not just run playoff cards that Virginia ran or that Stanford ran.
Yeah, just really quick thought, you said that's been something you've done, since the time, just pushing it for a level. Anything that you maybe changed or adjusted, just kind of bringing that so you can see?
No, you just do it with the players that are available. That's what Brady did the whole 2000 season. He never played. He was the fourth string quarterback, but he did all those plays of running our offense against our defense, the guys who didn't play, and that's part of what was his development or Edelman's development or whoever. Steve Neal, that's what all those guys, they started there and they worked their way up, and they weren't great, they weren't even good, but they became good, and some became great. And that was a path again for us to evaluate them, for them to gain confidence, doing what we do. It's just hard to take a player who runs the other team's plays every week and then stick them in there and have him do your plays and think that it's going to look great. He just hasn't had enough repetitions at our stuff, so you have to find time to do those. And those guys enjoy competing against each other, and again, they make each other better. They've all improved, and that's helped the person across from them improve. And I think that rising tide, has brought all of us up. We're more competitive in practice, so probably more competitive in the games.
Last one here, third row on the left.
Bill, whether it be with sacks or in the open field, it seems like throughout the years, the tackling has really gotten better. Would you agree with that?
Absolutely.
If so, what would you attribute that to?
I mean, I can't even tell you how much time we work on tackling and running, for that matter, because they go hand in hand. But we work a lot on it. I know that, you know, people that have watched us practice, like at New England, or even sometimes people that have come through here, some of the NFL scouts, you know, would just comment like, man, you guys spend a lot of time on tackling. And we do. We spend a lot of time on tackling. I think it's, you know, running is important fundamentally, tackling is an important fundamental, blocking and defeating blocks are important fundamentals, and so you just can't really do too much of those. They show up on every play, you know, a lot of times, multiple times. And tackling isn't always about the guy who makes a tackle. A lot of times it's about, you know, playing with the proper leverage to force the runner to somebody else who can make the tackle, as opposed to losing the leverage and, you know, then both of us are out of position. So, you know, it's something that we've spent a lot of time on, and we'll continue to do that because it's so foundational to successfully running or tackling the runner. And there's a lot of good runners in college football. There's a lot of guys that are quick and fast, and if you're not in position, they can make you look bad. And if you're in good position, you got a chance to, you know, to either make the play or force them to somebody else who can make the play. Okay, thank you. Thanks for your patience. Appreciate it.